Ho tēnā tātou, ki te whare e tūnei, te papa e tākoto nei, nā rangatira hoki, tēnā koutou. He mihi kau ana ki te mana whenua o tēnei rohe, ki a koutou me a koutou uri, e muri aki nei, tēnā koutou. Tēnei au, te paukoko Māori o tākou whakaihu waka, e mihi atu nei ki a koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. So I am Jacinta Ruru, Deputy Vice-Chancellor Māori here at the University of Otago. I welcome you all here this evening for this very special event to mark and celebrate the promotion of Professor Miranda Mirosa to our highest academic position. He mihi nunui ki a koe. I acknowledge all our colleagues and visitors here in person and those online who are gathered together to celebrate all you have achieved in your remarkable career to this point. And this is such a special occasion. I really wish to acknowledge your dear mum and dad who are here with us this evening, Kay and John Thompson. I acknowledge your husband, Romaine Mirosa, and your 3 children. It's wonderful to have you here this evening, and I'm sure you're very proud of your mum. So this occasion this evening represents years and years of high-profile research, teaching and supervision. And as a consumer food scientist, Professor Mirosa has contributed enormously to new knowledge in this country and internationally. One of the roles of the university is to help positively transform society. In your multidisciplinary work in science, marketing and psychology to provide insights and interventions for food system sustainability is truly remarkable and has deservedly led to many recognitions, including Fellow of the New Zealand Institute of Food Science and Technology. So, Professor Mirosa, I have been personally inspired by your research. In addition to all you do across many forums, I want to acknowledge the significant work you have done in the media, including our local Otago Daily Times, to share your work with everyday New Zealanders. So as one of your much admired colleagues, it is my greatest delight to stand here with you this evening to mark this substantial occasion in your stellar career. And I'll now hand over to Pro Vice-Chancellor of Sciences, Professor Richard Barker, to more fully introduce you. A warm welcome to you all here this evening. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Professor Ruru, tēnā koe. Professor Mirosa, tēnā koe. Professor Bremer, tēnā koe. Romain, bonjour. Friends and colleagues, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. It is my great pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight, Professor Miranda Mirosa from the Department of Food Science, to give her inaugural professorial lecture here at the University of Otago. As indicated by Professor Ruru, Miranda was promoted to Professor in February last year, and tonight we get to celebrate this significant achievement. Born in Ōtautahi, Christchurch, Miranda went to primary school in Pūtararu and then on to Aorangi Fielding in Manawatu, where she attended Fielding Agricultural High School, famous for its farming curriculum, for producing All Blacks, and as a little personal note, as it happens, educating a bevy of nieces and nephews for me. Food has always been a central part of her life, fortunate to have grown at a time when families could enjoy life with extended gardens that included an orchard. Miranda says 25 different trees and a flourishing vegetable garden. This was pivotal in shaping her passion for good and nutritious food, and I suspect it also sparked an interest in food waste. I know from my own experience I can be borderline irrational when good food that I've grown goes to waste. Miranda's interests in food are global, and in trying to unravel her progress from fielding ag to academia, I noted a certificate in international business from Otaru University, Japan in 2002 as part of a study abroad exchange program, a 2005 Otago BCom first in marketing management, an investigation into Japanese tourist thrill-seeking behaviours, a BA majoring in French, and I've skipped over, I think, what led to that, from Otago in 2007, before completing her PhD here at Otago on the slow food movement. Between her BCom honours and her BA in French, Miranda also took part in a study abroad exchange program to Université Jean Moulin Lyon 3 in the fabulous French city of Lyon in 2005. Now, making an educated guess here that this exchange also involved a certain Romain Mirosa, famous for his data insights at the University of Otago, less well known for his culinary talents that I'm told include Friday night pizza, perfectly paired with a craft beer, and indulgent Sunday morning crepe. Well, with all of these adventures behind her, Miranda joined the University of Otago initially as a contract lecturer in the Department of Marketing in 2010, before moving to her academic home in the Department of Food Science late that year, a department she leads today. So tonight we celebrate her rapid progress fully through the academic ranks at Otago, from lecturer to professor in just over a decade. As we have heard from Professor Ruru, promotion to professor at the University of Otago is not easy, and it requires excellence in all three academic domains of research, teaching and service. In research, Professor Mirosa is truly excellent. Her research is in agri-food marketing and consumer behaviour, and she leads a sustainable food systems behavioural research group whose mission is change for a more sustainable food future. She is productive, with 13 book chapters, 92 refereed journal articles, for those who know these things, an H-index of 32 and an H-index of 29 since 2019. Those are impressive. In addition, she has a 2020 paper co-authored with PhD student Charlene Lee and Professor Bremer that has already received more than 500 citations. It's only published in 2020. That's really phenomenal. Her research clearly has impact. Miranda's focus on food waste got the attention of the Prime Minister's office in 2022 when she served as a key advisor on the working group for the Office of the Prime Minister's Chief Science Advisor's project on reducing food loss and waste in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Her students are woven into her research, which leads us into teaching, the second domain in which academics must excel in order to be promoted to professor. To date, Professor Mirosa has supervised 11 PhD students to completion and is currently supervising another 5. She has supervised 28 master's students to completion, currently supervising another 3. And these students all feature in her publications. She also excels in undergraduate teaching, and I can do no better than to use the words of her students. Absolutely brilliant, teaches a lot of thought on food choice and politics. This is a fantastic paper and maybe one of my favourites during 2.5 years at Otago. It is the first paper I've done that explicitly sets out to develop an inquiring mind and facilitate an interest in continued learning. Another, this paper provides great insight into the food industry. Unlike my other papers, which are heavily focused on the science and technology of food, this paper shone the light on food and how it's more than just something we eat. I enjoyed learning about the social, economical, political, environmental, cultural, ethical and technological elements, could take a breath, that constitute the food industry on both a national and international scale. Personally, the most informative, eye-opening topic for me was the food insecurity content, as it opened my eyes more to the reality of food poverty and what is being done to reduce this in New Zealand. Great words from your students. The final domain in which academics must excel in order to be promoted is service to the academic and professional communities. Here, Miranda is also a star. She has been a founding member of the strategic leadership team of the New Zealand Food Safety Science Research Centre, and she was a founding co-chair of New Zealand Food Waste Champions. And anyone who has been to any of these events can see the influence that her leadership brings to these initiatives. And as we heard, she was recently made a Fellow of the New Zealand Institute of Food Science and Technology. She is also an advisor to government, and for this I will single out the Mirosa report, a highly influential report to the New Zealand Parliamentary Environmental Committee investigating food waste in New Zealand in 2019 and 2020. She is also an outstanding university citizen, and especially noteworthy has been her international work in China, including her work with the New Zealand China Food Protection Network and her role as honorary professor in the International Business School Suzhou at Xiangshantung Liverpool University in China. Finally, and for me personally most significantly, Miranda has been an outstanding head of department since taking over the leadership of the Department of Food Science last year, and may I say just one more in an outstanding succession of leaders of this department. I think that's enough from me, so it's now time we heard from Professor Mirosa herself, one of our fabulous women in science here at the University of Otago. Please join me in welcoming Professor Miranda Mirosa.
Thank you. Thank you. Deputy Vice-Chancellor, tēnā koe. Pro-Vice-Chancellor, tēnā koe. Professor Bremer, tēnā koe. To my family, my friends, my colleagues, students, and to all of you here tonight, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I'm really delighted to see you all here. There's so many of my favourite people in the room tonight, and this is awesome, so thank you so much for coming. Okay, I'm going to start off by setting the stage for what I hope you will find to be a stimulating feast. First up, as an amuse-bouche, I'm going to serve up two versions of what our food system might look like in 2050. Then as an entree, I'll bring us back to reality to 2024 and outline the current state of our food system. I'm going to make the case there is a need to innovate, and I'm going to highlight some of the new technologies and breakthroughs in science and social innovations that offer an opportunity to radically improve our system. Then for the main course, I'll deep dive into my journey and I'll outline some of the specific innovations that I've worked on to address food system challenges over the course of my academic career. And then to wrap it all up for dessert, I'm going to outline my drive to be an impactful academic in helping grow a sustainable and, super importantly, delicious food future. And I'll bring to the table a few of the lessons I've learned along the way. So I hope you find some food for thought. And I will stop with the puns. So sit back and relax. The year is 2050. Climate change has ravaged agricultural lands. I'm going to give you a little glimpse into this somewhat grim future of food. There's scarcity and rationing. Food security is rampant. Droughts and floods have crippled traditional agriculture, leading to soaring food prices and government-mandated rations. Meat becomes a luxury. Livestock requires significant resources, and lab-grown alternatives remain prohibitively expensive for most. Black markets thrive, offering smuggled genetically modified seeds and synthetic protein bars at exorbitant costs. We have the rise of corporate control. Mega corporations control the food supply chain. They own vast vertical farms under artificial drones, producing bland crops with minimal nutritional value. Water rights are fiercely contested, with corporations controlling access to this vital resource and using it to leverage political power. Consumer choice is but a distant memory. People rely on government-issued rations of generic, mass-produced food with limited variety. We have a crumbling infrastructure. Supply chains are in absolute shambles. Extreme weather events and political instability disrupt our transportation and distribution networks. Food spoilage is a major issue. Lack of proper infrastructure and energy shortages make storing and transporting food difficult. And there's a fight for survival. Social unrest is fueled by hunger and desperation, and food riots erupt in major cities as people fight for basic necessities. So this grim version, I hope, serves as a cautionary tale. It highlights some of the importance of both sustainable practices and equitable access to resources. Perhaps from learning from these potential pitfalls, we can work towards a brighter future where food security and abundance are a reality for all. So let's try again. This time, let's imagine another brighter future. Again, the year is 2050. We're now navigating a world where smart farming and personalised nutrition have revolutionised how we grow, distribute and consume food. So here's a little glimpse into this food system. We're cultivating abundance with sustainability at the core. Vertical gardens and indoor farms flourish in urban centres, powered by renewable energy and utilising vertical space for efficient year-round cultivation. Precision agriculture reigns supreme. We've got these fields dotted with autonomous farm robots meticulously analysing soil conditions and tailoring water and nutrient delivery to individual plants. We've got aquaponic systems combining fish farming with hydroponics, creating these sort of closed-loop ecosystems that use minimal water and land resources. We have a personalised plate. Nutrigenomics has become mainstream. Consumers undergo genetic testing to understand their unique nutritional needs. Based on this data, they receive personalised meal plans and recommendations for lab-grown meat or algae-based protein supplements tailored to their health goals. 3D printers are commonplace in homes, crafting personalised meals on demand, using ingredients downloaded from online marketplaces. We have a connected food chain. Our blockchain technology ensures transparency throughout the supply chain. Consumers can trace the origin of their food with a simple scan, understanding the environmental and ethical practices behind each and every ingredient. We've got delivery drones overhead, efficiently transporting fresh produce from farm to table, reducing transport emissions and ensuring speedy delivery. And we have a community of shared tables. Community-supported agricultural programs flourish, fostering strong bonds between farmers and consumers. We have shared kitchens and collaborative cooking spaces, encouraging social interaction and cultural exchange around food. So, a pretty awesome, flavoursome future. Which way will it go? Obviously, I've got no idea. While I'm not a food futurist, I do think there is the sort of exploring these types of possibilities can help illuminate opportunities and potentially obstacles on the path ahead. So bringing us back to today's food system, I want to start off by making the point it's actually a pretty impressive global food system that we've got. We're feeding more people than we've ever fed before. There's some pretty awesome, innovative products on market. To date, the way that we sort of evaluate the system has been based on yield. But this focus purely on productivity has come at the expense of human health and the natural environment. It should be really easy to be healthy, right? But it's not. Our supermarkets, we've got a flood of sugar on our supermarket shelves, we've got ultra-processed fast food restaurants that are clogging up our main streets. And for people with limited time and money, it's even harder. Food companies are also trapped into this system where there's fierce competition. They're trying to vying to sell us foods that are cheap and that are sold for the biggest profit margins. And these are the same foods that are making us unwell. Food systems already contribute up to 30% of global emissions. Agricultural land use is the main driver of deforestation, and approximately 1 in 10 people do not have enough food to eat. We need to redesign our food system so it allows businesses, it allows people, and it allows the planet to flourish. So the case for innovation is really strong. Our food system faces immense challenges, but it also presents a really unique opportunity. Food and ag innovations can be really sort of a powerful tool to address some of the world's most pressing issues. The image I've got up here on the slide is a framework for thinking about the food revolution, what goals we're trying to achieve, and what categories of innovation will help us to get there. On the outer part of the framework are the 3 main policy goals that innovations should aim to achieve. So innovations should aim to provide proper nutrition, deliver economic outcomes and growth, and promote environmental sustainability. There are lots of different types of food innovations, and this table provides some examples of food tech innovations, organised into 3 categories that are shown that were shown in red on the previous slide. So the first category of innovations are those that can increase the quality of foods and farming. So by harnessing things like precision farming and biotech, we can significantly reduce our reliance on harmful chemicals, improve soil health, enhance the nutritional value of our food. This means producing more with less while minimising our impact on the planet. The second category of innovations are those that can improve methods for producing food. A new wave of food production is emerging, shifting from traditional farms to controlled environments like laboratories and vertical farms. And the third category are those innovations that can reduce waste. So we've got mobile technologies and digital marketplaces, for example, that can help connect actors across the food system to reduce losses. Well, smart packaging and food sensing technologies can help food stay fresh for longer. So many of these innovations combine several cross-cutting technologies. If we take the vertical farms, for example, these might combine robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, synthetic biology, and gene editing. It all sounds pretty fancy, right? But is all this tech going to be the savior of our system? The tech's hot, it's sexy, it sizzles. Tech often takes center stage in our imaginations and our discussions about the future of food. Tech solutions promise a quick fix with gadgets and apps. Tech has the potential for rapid scaling, reaching a large number of people quickly. This is obviously really attractive to investors and policymakers that seek a widespread impact. And tech provides measurable outcomes. Tech solutions often generate data that allow for easy measurement of success. This can be pretty reassuring for those funding the projects. If we compare this to social or human practice type innovations, these arguably somewhat similar in comparison. Social innovations often focus on changing behaviours and cultural norms. This is a slower process. It's hard to quantify or track with metrics. And they often require ongoing investment to maintain momentum and build community. This can be less appealing to those that are seeking a one-time fix. But although influencing human behaviour can often be more complex than dealing with technical aspects, and you may have heard of the well-known saying, the soft stuff, the cultural, the behavioural stuff is the hard stuff, it is super important that we try and innovate in this space as well. So what do we mean by social innovations? Fair trade food systems, community-supported fisheries, and food and gleaning sharing initiatives are just among some of the examples I've got here on the slide, which I've organised into those same three innovation framework. So the possibilities for social innovation are constantly evolving. By focusing on building community, empowering individuals, and really importantly, fostering a culture of respect for food, these innovations can help create a sustainable and equitable food system for all. Building the best possible future food system will likely require embracing many of both these technical and social type innovations and more. And of course they can work together, right? Tech can amplify social innovation. If we imagine social innovations in consumption practices for fresh produce, where consumers choose to eat on site, hyper-local food grown in high-tech closed-loop systems. And of course, there are challenges to maximising the potential and ensuring the adoption of such innovations. And to ensure the impact that these technologies have on our food system will be positive, we must ensure that proper scientific research is conducted. So shortly, I'm going to provide some insights into some of the innovations that my team and I have worked on over the course of my academic career. But before that, I thought it might be useful to provide a little bit of context of who I am and where I've come from. So while I'm sort of time warping all over the show, I'm going to hop in the time capsule and scoot back to the beginning of my journey. Here are the expected kid picks. In these talks, I feel like people often have really interesting stories about how surprising it is that they ended up in academia, given terrible report cards at school or because no one else in their family has ever been to university. But I don't have any of those stories. Although I never would have guessed it at the time, the fact that I ended up in the education sector isn't that surprising. I started practicing to be a teacher at a very young age. I would regularly round up my brothers, Nigel and Glenn, who were about 2 and 4 at the time, and a pile of soft toys to partake in school lessons where I would teach them to write and count. The photo on the top right of this slide here is from a local newspaper, me with a very serious teacher-like expression and already a pointer in hand. I grew up in an awesome family with a really strong emphasis on education. My dad, John, who's sitting here, was the head of maths at Fielding High School, a position which my younger brother now holds. My mum, Kay, is a physiotherapist at the Palmerston North Hospital, and she provides hands-on educational training to many of our University of Otago students who spend their placements under her supervision. Although I wasn't a top academic student, my report cards were always pretty good. And through high school, I enjoyed leadership and student politics, and I served as school president at both my intermediate and high school. Once I finished high school, I made the decision to come down south to Otago and settle in at Unicole, just as my mum had done many years before me, and started studying towards BCom. I also started training to be a snowboard instructor. So after working all night at the Outback, I don't know how many of you remember the Outback, it was a fairly ruckus student bar. I would come to class on Friday and then I would walk out to the Southern Highway and put my thumb out and hitchhike a ride to Wanaka. And I did this every weekend over the season. So after my first year, I decided to take time off my studies and travel the world with my snowboard. And I landed instructing jobs in Canada and Switzerland and then back home in Methven. I was convinced to come back to study second year when I learned about a scholarship available for students to go on exchange to Otaru in Sapporo, Japan, as we've heard. I happened to know there was a lot of snow. When not on the mountain, I studied international business and Japanese, and I had an amazing year, the highlight of which was meeting my French boyfriend, now husband, Roman. After Japan, I returned to Dunedin and started my third year of study, but the mountains call was too strong. So I called my parents to announce I was dropping out of university to become a professional snowboarder. Obviously, they weren't delighted with this decision, but they need not have worried because within weeks I'd broken my neck and my short-lived career as a professional snowboarder on the mountain came to an end. 9 months in a body brace meant I had to move back home to the North Island with my parents. And so I signed up for a suite of third-year distance tourism papers. After graduating my marketing degree, having managed to skip pretty much all of the core marketing papers, I decided I'd better give the discipline a fair go. So I did come back down to Dunedin to do my honours year. I also decided I'd better learn French to speak to my boyfriend's family, so I enrolled in the BA. And as part of this degree, ventured out on that second student exchange we heard about to Lyon, France. Dunedin beckoned again, and I found myself back at uni, this time enrolled in a PhD. And I spent a fantastic 3 years doing all the things I was told not to do in the orientation seminar, getting married, buying, renovating a house, and towards the end, having a baby. For my doctoral research, I worked under the awesome supervision of Professors Rob Lawson and Ben Wallace-Croft on a project looking at ideological change in the context of a consumer activist movement called Slow Food Movement. Slow food is a global movement. It's all about acting together to ensure good, clean and fair food systems for all. This sort of foray into the wonderful world of food research ignited what would become a lifelong passion for sustainable food systems. After graduation, I enjoyed working at the Centre for Sustainability as a project manager for the Energy Cultures project. This was a fabulous insight into the strengths of working in an interdisciplinary team and to sort of help solve complex, wicked issues. My passion for researching food-related issues in an interdisciplinary team meant that when the opportunity to join the food science department as a lecturer came up, I jumped at this chance. The role that was advertised was consumer food scientist, and though, to be honest, I didn't quite know what this was, I applied and I got the job. As time progressed, I started learning more about the New Zealand food sector and my role as an academic in this. In a nutshell, this has been to champion the importance of behavioural science in driving positive change in this sector. More specifically, my research efforts have focused on understanding how people make food choices, how they interact with food systems, and respond to new technical and social innovations that are developed by my clever colleagues and industry partners. This work program has involved understanding user needs and behaviours, identifying barriers to innovation adoption, and developing strategies to address them, including building user trust and acceptance. So what I want to do now is to whiz you through some of this work in the next series of slides. I've organised the different strands into those three innovation categories in the framework that I introduced to you earlier. So I'm going to start off with work that falls into this first category. Innovations or insights that increase food quality. And there are three sub-themes or sort of strands to this work. The example papers on this slide here approach the first theme, innovations that improve food and farming from various angles. We've done lots of work looking at sort of understanding the consumer, and the top 4 example papers on this slide explore consumer preferences for local food, fresh products, as well as decision-making processes and behaviours relating to food purchases. By understanding consumer preferences, research and industry leaders can develop solutions that improve food quality and create a more efficient food system. The paper on the bottom left of the slide complements this consumer-focused approach by providing a broader systemic perspective. It highlights the importance of considering all stakeholders within the food system when developing innovations for lasting improvements, including the critical role of Indigenous knowledge and leadership in fostering local sustainable food systems, as is discussed in the paper on the bottom right. The provided papers here all connect to the sub-theme of innovations, insights that improve food safety communications, assurance practices, and culture. Again, much of the work here has been on understanding consumer perceptions. Given the importance of the Chinese market, which is where New Zealand sends most of our food products, there's been a really strong emphasis on these consumers. The top 3 papers examine how consumers perceive food safety cues and information. This research helps identify how the industry can tailor communication strategies to effectively reach target audiences. Beyond the consumer focus, we've again looked at the food risk communication, we've also looked at the food risk communication competencies of the New Zealand food industry, as well as examined how supplier audits, which are a really crucial part of the system, adapted during the COVID-19 pandemic. Combined, this research contributes to building a culture of food safety through knowledge sharing and continuous improvement within the industry. These papers all connect to the overarching theme of innovations or insights that use novel technologies in the food industry. Again, most of these focus on consumer acceptance and understanding cultural nuances. The studies explore how consumers perceive and respond to novel food processing technologies such as high-pressure processing, pulsed electric field, and various foodborne bacteria control methods. This research helps determine consumer preferences for these technologies and identify potential strategies such as providing information about the benefits and safety of novel technologies to improve acceptance. Furthermore, it's again important to consider all stakeholders, so we also delve beyond consumer perspectives and perceptions and attitude, and to explore the perceptions and attitudes of industry and regulatory bodies towards some of these novel technologies. Understanding these viewpoints is crucial for bridging the gap between technological advancements and their successful implementation within the food industry. I've been really fortunate to have collaborated with some exceptional colleagues and postgrads on this work, a few, but by no means all who are pictured here. Specifically, I want to thank Professor Phil Bremer. Although a microbiologist and a food marketer make for a fairly unconventional research duo, we've enjoyed many productive research collaborations, not just in this innovation area, but in some of the others I'm going to get to. So thank you, Phil. The second innovation category is improving methods for producing and promoting new foods and packaging. The papers here connect to the sub-theme of insect-based food innovation. So they highlight the importance of understanding consumer preferences, developing processing techniques to enhance nutritional value, and exploring diverse applications for insect-based foods. By addressing these aspects, researchers and food developers can create insect-based food options that are both appealing to consumers and offer a sustainable and nutritious food source. These papers all connect to the sub-theme of promoting alternative proteins and flexitarian diets. The first couple of papers explore consumer attitudes and behaviours related to meat consumption and flexitarianism. Understanding the motivations and challenges and the overall sort of flexitarian journey can inform the development of products and resources tailored to this growing segment. The second couple of papers inform the development of strategies to nudge consumers towards flexitarian options. The report at the bottom of the slide explores the broader picture, analysing the potential environmental, social and economic impacts for New Zealand of a more diversified protein future. These papers all emphasise the importance of a consumer-centric approach to developing high-value nutrition and functional foods. By understanding what motivates consumers and what specific functionalities they seek, researchers and food developers can create innovative and successful products in this growing market segment. This research theme is all about packaging innovations and includes work on smart, what we say, active and intelligent and recycled packaging from both a consumer and industry perspective. Again, by understanding consumer preferences for smart packaging functionalities and addressing industry concerns regarding recycled materials, researching and food packaging developers can create innovative solutions that are both appealing to consumers and support sustainable food systems. Again, I've worked with countless colleagues and students in the second innovation category, all who have been a constant source of encouragement and inspiration. The third and final category includes innovations in the food waste space, and there are 3 strands to this work. Taken together, these papers provide a comprehensive picture of food waste in New Zealand, from measurement and source identification to potential solutions and their impacts. We've provided both a broad sort of overview, estimating food waste at the national scale, as well as provided data about the scale and impact of waste at specific food points along the chain. So food loss on farms, food and waste in retail and food service sectors, for example. We've also examined social and economic impacts of food waste solutions, including behaviour change campaigns like the Clean Your Plate campaign in China, as well as measured the impact of food rescue activities. These papers are all about social innovations that target people's behaviours, attitudes and social norms that contribute significantly to food waste. Some of our work in this space has looked at innovative ways to encourage people to take doggy bags, order appropriate portions when ordering food in store and online, and accept ugly, imperfect produce. Other social innovations don't just focus on influencing individual behaviours, but also address social changes within the broader food system, like the paper looking at systemic and social dynamics of food production, which investigated food waste in the kiwi fruit sector. Other studies, like the hospital ones, have addressed both individual and systemic factors influencing waste. These papers explore upcycled food, which are a technical innovation gaining traction in the fight against food waste. So upcycled foods are made from byproducts from our food manufacturing industry or from parts of foods that were sort of previously considered inedible. Our work here has focused on investigating how upcycling food can support the 3 pillars of sustainability, as well as contribute to a healthy diet. We've looked at the market and retail potential, as well as consumer acceptance of these new types of food. A special thank you to all of these exceptional colleagues and students with whom I've collaborated with on these food waste related projects, and a particular shout out to Professor Sheila Skeef. All of these people, I guess their encouragement and commitment have really fueled my passion for research and scholarship on waste and more broadly. Okay, so that's the different research domains and the people I've worked with. Obviously not all papers were shown, nor were all colleagues and students acknowledged, and for those that I've missed, I apologise. I'm aware this has only been a really sort of quick whiz through of my work rather than a deeper look at specific key findings. However, given the breadth of the work and the many different strands I've just presented, I thought what I would do instead of talking about specific findings is share some reflections on my attempt to be an impactful academic and discuss some of the impact strategies that I've used. So, impact means many different things in academia. Typically, impact is measured by the research publications like the ones I've just shown you. But the impact that drives me is much more than that. It's about making real change to issues that matter. I think there's an increased expectations for academics to demonstrate what I've called sort of beyond the textbook or beyond the journal types of impacts. I don't believe there's nearly enough support provided by the Academy to equip young scholars here. So to finish my talk tonight, I thought I would share some of what I've learned in the hope that this might assist others who want to embrace an impact path. I'm specifically going to focus on connecting science, policy, society to enact change. I try to build various forms of impact into all the different strands of work that I do, but where I feel I've been most able to sort of be most impactful to date has been with my food loss and waste work. So I'm going to focus on sharing a couple of experiences in this domain. I just want to take a couple of minutes to set the scene. These are some of the government initiatives relating to food loss and waste in New Zealand. Ministry for the Environment is the main central government agency involved in this work. Food waste falls under its mandate from both a waste minimisation and management perspective, as well as from an emissions reduction perspective. And there's a whole suite of other agencies and territorial authorities involved as well. And of course, this action at the domestic level sits within the context of intergovernmental and multinational initiatives that New Zealand contributes to as well. All of this means as researchers working in this domain, our networks need to be really wide. So I'm going to run through these sort of 3 strategies which I've used to leverage my research expertise to influence some of the government policies and initiatives you've seen on the previous slide. The first strategy is influencing policy through evidence-based advocacy. In essence, this is all about using the power of knowledge to drive positive change in society. The example here, as we've heard from Professor Barker, I was asked in 2019-2020 to serve as the independent advisor to an Environment Committee food waste briefing. and I produced the report named by the committee as the Mirosa report that summarised evidence on the size and scope of New Zealand's food waste problem and made recommendations on what could be done to address this. My recommendations included that New Zealand adopt a Target Measure Act food waste strategy. Initially, Cabinet agreed to only endorse the target and measurement stages of this approach, which were to establish a national definition and to conduct a baseline audit of food waste across the supply chain, both of which are now in place. The fact that the whole series of recommendations, and there were lots of them, about 38 recommendations on action, in terms of sort of action, how to action food waste prevention and reduction, weren't endorsed in full immediately, was really frustrating. But actually, many of these actions have since come to fruition, and have appeared in that summary table I showed on the previous slide. Government agencies' work programs picked up some of these actions. Ministry for the Environment, for example, have since funded behaviour reduction programs for consumers and businesses as recommended. Our University of Otago team is currently working on a research project looking at food waste in the aged care sector as part of this behaviour change program. But other non-government stakeholders also picked up some of these recommendations and made them work. Here at the University of Otago, we didn't wait for the government. We just went ahead and established a dedicated food waste research theme or centre called Food Waste Innovations that's been running for about 4 years now. An organisation that facilitates collaboration among many food waste sector stakeholders called New Zealand Food Waste Champions was formed by community players with representatives from across the supply chain. So in sum, although not sort of all immediately, many of the recommendations did see light, and serving as advisor to a briefing process proved to be a fantastic opportunity to help shape the national agenda on waste. While obviously many of my experiences here are specific, I think there are some broader lessons to be learned. I've identified 3 key takeaways for researchers seeking to influence through evidence-based advocacy. First of all, the first one is be propositional. I think as researchers, we often stop short of making recommendations. We tend to just want to present the research facts and sort of hand it over to others to do with as they see fit. But I encourage you, when appropriate, to be brave and don't just sort of outline the problem, but make recommendations on what should happen. The second takeaway is policy change takes time, and persistence and long-term engagement are needed. I've been working in this space for over 10 years, and the policy wheels have really only started moving on this issue in the last 4 or so. And thirdly, while policymakers might be the target audience, be open to the idea that other non-governmental stakeholders might end up finding ways to action your policy recommendations. The second impact strategy I wanted to discuss is influencing policy through building relationships and networks and becoming a trusted source. In the food waste space, I worked to establish a reputation as a sort of a go-to subject matter expert. I made myself widely known, I built a researcher brand, and I networked hard. And then the policy influencing opportunities did follow, and I've put a few of the examples up on the slide of the opportunities I've had to contribute to some of the intergovernmental work programs that New Zealand partakes in this space. So I've got 2 key takeaways here for researchers seeking to make a policy impact. I think building relationships is absolutely key. Prioritise conferences and events with government, industry and NGO attendance. In fact, I've often prioritised these types of events over the academic ones. The second is that it sounds really obvious, it's super important, so I've put it up anyway. Become a trusted source. Constantly deliver high quality research services on time and their time, and demonstrate that willingness to provide ongoing support and expertise. The third strategy is all about communication and collaboration to amplify research impact. The example I wanted to give here was how we helped not only sort of create a research movement, but also a public advocacy movement. Essentially, a movement can translate research into action by creating a groundswell of support for change. In terms of research coalitions or sort of research movements, I've already mentioned our Food Waste Innovation Research theme, and we've had a really strong focus not just on creating new knowledge, but also raising public and policy awareness about our research findings. And we've done this in lots of different ways. We've made sort of digestible resources, so a website has a resource hub where we've put up talking abstracts of our journal articles, as well as videos and infographics, and we send out stakeholder newsletters and host lots of public events. Regarding non-research partnerships, we collaborate closely with other stakeholders, industry, NGOs, to build this broader coalition for change on this issue. So the key message I want to share here is that sort of creating movements has helped enormously amplify our research efforts. I've spent lots of time on non-typical academic activities. I chair the board of the New Zealand Food Waste Champions 12.3 Trust, for example, but I find it time really well spent. And so I encourage other researchers to think about what they might do in spaces where they wish to make an impact. Okay, so that's the 3 strategies I found to be impactful. So use evidence-based advocacy to help set the agenda, build networks and become a trusted source, and collaborate and communicate. I feel really lucky to have been offered the opportunities I've had to help make an impact on the national food waste agenda. And we've made some really terrific progress on many fronts, but there's still a lot of work to do. And I look forward to continuing to contribute to work in this space where I can. I strongly encourage emerging researchers to think about how they can best be impactful in their research domains. And although I'm by no means a research impact expert, I'm always happy to have a coffee and talk about my own impact experiences and what I've learned. So if anyone's keen, just reach out. Okay, all that remains now is to sort of wrap up some morsels. Regarding my next steps, I've got lots on my plate with head of department duties, which involve ensuring our Otago food and ag programs thrive. I want to thank all of my colleagues in food science, and particularly Associate Professor Graham Ayres, who takes on the extra responsibility of acting head when necessary. There also continues to be lots happening on the food waste front, with the Office of the Prime Minister's Chief Science Advisor just recently releasing a new series of recommendations to government. Our research team, as well as the New Zealand Food Waste Champions, are committed to working collaboratively with the food sector to translate as many of these recommendations into action as possible. I'm blown away by the calibre of people we have on the team, and I want to give a special shout of thanks to Caitlin Dawson and her team, Deborah Manning, Dame Juliet Gerard, and the rest of my board, Tessa Vincent, and all of the champions. To ensure I'm as impactful as possible in my research and service leadership roles, I've prioritised upskilling in leadership and governance. And a partway through a program of courses run by the New Zealand Institute of Directors. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity and for the informal leadership mentoring Professor Richard Barker and Chancellor Trish Oakley kindly provide. Although I dreaded the thought of standing here tonight before you all, actually preparing this lecture has been pretty rewarding. Looking back at my career, I feel super proud about many things. I'm proud I hit prof by 40, but I'm most proud I've managed to do this while raising 3 amazing kids who are sitting here tonight, Luca, Matteo, and Kemi, all who amaze me daily. And this wouldn't have been possible without the loving support of my wonderful husband, Roman, and my mum and dad, who I admire and appreciate immensely. Bringing it back to food, let's break bread on a delicious solution, a sustainable food system. It's a recipe requiring a whole range of innovative ingredients, technical and social solutions, and a generous helping of collaboration. Science, policy, and society need to sit at the table together to ensure that food is valued, not wasted. Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou koutou, ko whiruma tōku ingoa. Professor Mirosa, on behalf of everyone gathered here tonight and the people viewing this presentation now and in the year 2050, I'd like to sincerely thank you for sharing your research journey and ably demonstrating the positive impact that a passionate and dedicated scientists can make towards improving the safety and well-being of our community and ensuring the sustainability of our food systems. For many years, I've been very pleased with myself for the role I played as HOD in appointing Miranda as a lecturer in the Department of Food Science. This appointment was not made because of Miranda's stellar publication record. Rather, as was evident tonight, it was her enthusiasm and her desire for her research to make a meaningful difference that swayed the panel. Thank you, Miranda, for also sharing some of the secrets to your success. the importance of building scientific credibility and trust, of having the determination to stick with a problem over time, of developing relationships and connections, and of using science-based efficacy to enact real change. On behalf of all of us here tonight, I thank you for the very positive impact your research is having. Thank you. I'd like to invite Professor Mirosa back to the stage to receive a small token of appreciation.